So just a bit about me. As you can see, those of you who've been joining me and watching the replays, I am Dawn Bates. I am an international best-selling award-winning author, writer, coach, and a boutique publisher. I've written over I've well, I've written and published both as a solo author, developmental editor, around about 22 books at the moment. We've got about 3 more coming out in the pipeline, and I'm working on several other manuscripts. So things are a bit busy, but they're great. Keeps me out of trouble. And this week we are looking at the power of writing and how your book can become a philanthropic legacy. So a little bit of history, because we all know that Dawny likes to be a bit of a geek. So this week, I want to introduce you to Asclepius. I think that's how I pronounce it. I have been practicing because, like I said last night, I was up in Birmingham for Women Celebrating Women's History Month. So thank you to Birmingham City University Students' Union for inviting me, and JCI Birmingham. Which is going to be all part of this, because when we look at philanthropy, we have to really understand what it is before we can even consider whether our book is going to be a philanthropic endeavor, and how we're actually going to use our book to actually leverage that. So a little bit of history. Asclepius was 5th century playwright, and he actually was the one who coined the term philanthropy. And at the time, it meant love of humanity. Now, there are lots of us who think, oh my God, humanity has gone to shit. There are lots of us who think that, oh my God, I'd rather be with dogs more than humans. I am one of those people a lot of the time. Dogs are always happy to see me. Dogs don't get offended by me. And they always wag their tail. They're always really quite happy just to go for a walk. They're not demanding. They're wonderful. But in today's world, it's kind of been a bit more distorted, or it's evolved, shall we say, and it's actually come to mean generosity. Now, there are a lot of authors out there, they're not interested in being generous. They're not interested in anybody else but themselves, and collecting the title of author, which we will come on to at the end of this presentation. And many of us will have heard of the 5 love language that I think it was like John Coleman wrote, or John Goleman, I can't remember. Apologies to John. I think it is Coleman. He wrote about the 5 love languages, whether it's acts of service, it's gift giving, touch, etc., etc. But the gift giving in philanthropy is time, talent, and treasure. So we're going to be exploring those today. And it's all about how we can make life better for other people rather than just ourselves. Because when we only think about ourselves, that means we're a little bit selfish. And there is a chap, Gary, that I've been speaking to. And he actually has a theory that selfish people make the best leaders. And whilst I understand his concept, because when we're looking after ourselves, we're actually giving hope and leadership to others. And it's a great theory, and I love exploring it. And I agree with lots of it. So make sure that you stay tuned for that, because I will be having more conversations with Gary in the future. But how we as authors and writers, because there is a difference between a writer and an author, but how are we actually making life better for other people with our writing in our books? And it comes down to what we think of humanity. Now, it might be, like I said just a few moments ago, is it because we love humanity? Is it because we want to develop it? Is it because we don't see a lot of it? Is it because we think that humanity is all connected and what we do impacts others? What is your view of humanity? And what is going to be that thing that you give to humanity? Or what are you taking from humanity? And when we understand that, again, bringing with the end in mind, understanding our why, these are all very, very important questions. So do you love humanity? Now, I think, and I have seen and I've experienced a lot of it in my life, a lot of really great humanity. Now, those of you who don't know, I traveled the world by myself for 7 years, and I went to some of the most dangerous places on the planet. Apparently, they were the most dangerous. Um, and in some of the most dangerous places on the planet, I actually felt the safest because of what I understood about what was going on in those areas. And it's all about looking beyond the obvious. Now, if we were to believe the media, we would believe that everybody is out to murder us, rape us, steal from us, destroy us. But we don't understand, and what we're not seeing is the unsung heroes behind everything that are actually working on some of the most incredible grassroots projects and organizations that are working to prevent some really awful things happening. And it's, how are you going to shine a light on that? Or how are you show, because last week we were all about whistleblowing, and we were talking about things that we were sharing that might be taking down governments, it might be exposing corruption, it might be exposing trauma. So we're looking at that. So this week we're actually looking at the flip side of that. And I've just got off a 3-hour seminar, 4-hour seminar, and it was all about recognizing child criminal exploitation, hosted by the fabulous team, which involved Cardiff University. And we were in that seminar, we had people that were working within the police, in social services, within education. It was an incredible seminar, and I got to see these brilliant individuals that are working so hard to protect vulnerable members of our community. And these people need championing, these people need highlighting. So again, what are our views on humanity? Are we only looking at the worst of it, or are we looking at the beauty of it? Are we looking at the people, like the light and the dark? Are we those of us that know about human trafficking and the sex slave and modern slavery trade, and we know about the criminal gangs and the drug world, where they're using children to be mules, and vulnerable people and grooming people. What are we doing? How are we exposing that? How are we giving our time and our resources and our money and our voices to these people? So again, how are you wanting to be of service? Because philanthropy is all about being of service. And how will your book, once you've written it, how will your book impact humanity and the society as a whole? Because it might be like myself, you write books that are exposing a lot of this. Now, my 4th book in the Sacred series, Alpha, was all about changing the narrative around the blood diamonds that was happening in Central Africa. Now, the blood diamond trade was absolutely horrendous. But what that was hiding was a lot of sex trafficking, FGM that was going, female genital mutilation. And lots of people believe that female genital mutilation is an Islamic thing, but it's not. It happens just as much, if not more, in the Christian communities. And it is a cultural practice more than anything. And it is around the world. It's not just in Islamic circles or within African countries. When we do our research, we find this out. So again, my books and the way I write them, I have a lot of dyslexic readers, people who tell me that, oh my goodness, I love your books because I get to enjoy reading. So the way I write my books actually has my readers with dyslexia enjoying reading. And so I made a promise to myself never to change the way I write, because I did not want to go too highbrow with a lot of the research that I do, so that it alienates my dyslexic readers. So I'm gifting my dyslexia, those of you with dyslexia, the opportunity to learn about the world without it all being a bit too textbooky. So I can nerd out, but I can respect people that don't really like to go down those academic textbooks. So again, how is the book that you're writing impacting humanity and society? So looking at gift giving in step 3. Are you going to be giving away all the royalties of your book to charity? Those of you who know me and follow me on LinkedIn and here on YouTube, you will know that many of the books that I write, especially the anthologies, the royalties that we gain online, they all go to charity. So all of the royalties from the Man Up book, which was addressing men's mental health and suicide prevention, all of the royalties from that book go to Tough to Talk. All of the royalties from my menopause book go to the ladies in Costa Rica in the Humanitarian Foundation, run by a wonderful lady called Gail, who helps the Nicaraguan refugees. The ladies there buy material to create these reusable and washable sanitary protection, but also help these women actually build a business through doing this and educating the young girls about menstruation and menopause. And then my next book that's coming up, Owning Our Ovaries, all of the royalties for that will be going to endometriosis, to help women, to help the research that's being funded and to get women who suffer from endometriosis the support that they need. So again, all of the royalties for those. One of my clients, Al, he's written the first book. We're halfway through the second one. God, I can't wait to finish reading this trilogy. Oh my God, it's so good. But he's donating all of the royalties to his fiction book about Yasate, the man behind Genghis Khan. All of the royalties that he gets from his book, they're going to the Disabled Veterans Associations of America. So again, are you giving away all your royalties to charity? Are you giving away your books into the schools or the community educations or to the women's hospices or to men's? Are you donating books to men's shelters? Are you putting them into prisons? Where are you donating your books? Are you donating your time to go and talk to underprivileged or communities? Are you going into prisons to talk about certain things? It's something that I'm working on at the moment, and it's talking about some of these issues, because when we actually, especially when you write books of the nature that I write about, I'm talking about trauma, I'm talking about systemic abuse, and I'm talking about government and corporate corruption. And how are the people that you're writing about, the subjects that you're writing about, who are they for? Who are they really impacting? Are you writing for people to understand a different section of community? So, for example, when I talk about systemic abuse and policing, and I'm also talking about rape and trauma, talking to prisoners who have been through, because our prisoners are some of the most traumatized members of community. They probably not had as many opportunities as other people. So are you building bridges between different communities? Are you that bridge that's needed? Are you giving your time to the universities, such as I did last night? I traveled all the way, I traveled to 3 hours north of where I am now. I did the talk, and then I traveled all the way back. And I was gifted an opportunity to see a very dark side of British community last night, because I had to change coaches in a certain city. And I saw a part of British society I had not seen. And that frightened me. And it didn't frighten me in a way that I felt threatened. It frightened me because there are so many people who are traumatized and that have given up on life and just want to run from their existence, and they've mutilated themselves to such a degree, whether it's through the track marks that I saw on people's arms, on the backs of their legs, or the things that they've done to their bodies. And it was really upsetting, because it's like, how have we failed society? Those of us who have had opportunities, how are we supporting others, but also how are we failing them? And how can our book and what we write about actually go to help them moving forward? So again, what's your gift? Is it your time? Is it your expertise? How are you giving it? Because when we understand who we are and the talents that we have and the expertise that we have, and the insights such as the ones that I gained last night, how are we using that to lift up everybody else and those, and learn from others to actually help us with our research, such as the 3-4 hour seminar that I was on this morning. I'm learning from others. So and it's part of the research that I'm doing for an up and coming book called Social. That's going to be quite a hard book for me to write, but again, it's a way of me giving back, because I can learn, I can handle this this traumatic information, and I can alchemize it through my writing. And by doing that, I'm actually gifting people who cannot afford to get an education. I'm gifting people healing. But I suppose some people would call it healing by proxy or indirect healing, because when we read about other people's stories, or we hear about other people's stories, then we can actually gain more inspiration. I mean, lots of us will already be knowing this, but we don't actually see who we are. We don't see the growth that we have had. And last night at this event, there was an incredible young lady. It was her first ever speaking gig. And I watched her up on stage, and my heart warmed for her, because you could tell she wasn't confident. You could tell that she was very nervous. And she reminded me of myself on my very first speaking gig. And it showed, not only did she get up there and show her bravery, but she also reminded me of how far I have come and what a responsibility I have in helping to mentor and nurture others in their careers and their opportunities in life that are probably different to something that they've ever considered. Some of the people that were in the audience last night, we were listening. I mean, some of the ladies that were speaking, well, all of them, like, I'm just sitting there and I'm nodding and I'm clapping, and we're just celebrating. But we all gave our time for free to mentor and really give back to people. And we all traveled from distances. And it's not just about doing that in our own countries. Are we doing this in other countries? Are we going on grassroots projects? Are we going out to places such as the different places around the world that I've been to? Are we learning about other cultures? And I don't just mean the cultures in other countries, but the different cultures within our own country, the microcultures, the subcultures within the subcultures. What are we learning about them, and how are we helping to develop other people? Because when we take our talent and we give that to others, because we've written these books, because we've given ideas and we've helped them heal by proxy, then we're all raising. And that is also an act of philanthropy. Treasure. Who doesn't like treasure? I mean, come on. Pirates have been searching for treasure for millennia. But where's the treasure? What is treasure for you? Is it just money and gold coins and jewels and gems? Or are we talking about the internal treasures of life? Are we talking about a smile that we see come on someone's face who we've only ever seen cry? Are we talking about that joy that someone experiences after grief? Are we talking about the child whose life has been transformed because somebody, such as those of us who have had the opportunities and have written a book, and we share with them, where you are now is where I once was. And that person then starts learning from us, from our life story that we have written in a book. Are we writing the book as a academic book, but not talking in jargon or in academic speak? Are we being relatable to these students that are learning? Because we all know that in schools and universities, there are a lot of children that don't want to be there. They're not inspired. The teachers are worked to an absolute God. The teachers are run ragged. And in certain countries around the world, Britain in particular, what we're seeing is that teachers are expected to be absolutely everything, not only the teacher, but the parent, the caseworker, the safeguarder, the protector. They're expected to do so much. And it's, are we then are schools buying the wrong books? Are they just buying textbooks, which you could actually write a book about your subject, but actually write it in a way for the kids so they're not bombarded? Because some of the kids are so traumatized in schools due to war or famine or poverty or abuse at home, and it's not, they can't retain that information. You can't educate a child who is hungry because they're more focused on the pain in their stomach because they're hungry rather than learning all of the dates and people and names of history. So we've really got to look at how we as authors and as writers are transforming the education system and the care system. Because when we write our stories or we write a healing journey and we write it in such a way that somebody can read it and they can heal through that story, they can heal themselves because they're identifying with that story, but it's far enough away that it's not theirs. So again, what is the treasure and what are we talking about? So is it the hope? And is it the opportunity to learn something which is going to give them a job? Or is it the time that you're taking to go to an event, host an event, or speak at an event? Will you use the money from your other career or your side hustle, whatever it is that you're working on, to actually sponsor a project in schools? Are you going in to sponsor a field trip? Are you taking the kids on? I mean, are we even allowed to do field trips these days with the amount of safeguarding and legislation that's going on in a lot of places? Again, are you going in and organizing an event in schools? Can you give your name to a humanitarian award? What is it that you can do? What is a treasure that you can gift to other people? Because there's so much. I mean, I'm running through all of these things, and there might be similar things to what we've learned on previous shows. But again, we've got to start looking at philanthropic behavior, because it's not just all about the money. It's not being able to write a huge check and go, "Oh, there you go, I've donated money on to the next one. I've made a bit more money on to the next one." The true philanthropy is not just about writing checks and having a photo opportunity and saying, "Oh, look at me, aren't I great? I just donated money." Or having a hospital wing named after us. That's not what it's about. It's not about having a university wing named after us. It's about the difference that we are making, and how we are making society better. So what does your book really offer to others? Because if all you're doing is writing a book to elevate yourself and to give yourself prestige, you've absolutely missed the point. And it's quite, like I said, it's quite selfish. It's egotistical. And I get it. We need to pay, we want to make money. That's, we're here. We have to make money, whether we're making money for ourselves or making money from a job, so that we can pay our bills and we can buy food and provide for our children, etc. But if all we're doing is going after the title of author just to be an author and to have, "Oh, I'm an author, don't you know?" You're doing it for all the wrong reasons. You have the opportunity to be more than that. And this is about your own personal growth as much as it is seeing other people grow. When you're writing a book that really has an impact on society, that is really highlighting and showcasing some of the ills in society, and but also some of the brilliance in humanity, then you're really embodying, for me anyway, that's when you're really embodying what it truly means to be a writer. Because some of the best writing comes from trauma. Some of the best writing comes from pain and suffering. Some of the best songs we ever hear, it's because it's come from someone's pain. Some of the best paintings we see have come from someone's pain. When we look at Salvador Dali, we always see the crutch in there, and you'll see something is leaning on that stick. And that actually symbolizes Dali's mother, because she was the crutch for him and throughout his whole life. And that's how she was presented in his paintings. And you're looking at the melting of society, the melting of time. Dali's work is so incredible. I am a fan, obviously, as you can tell. I just love his work. There's just so much to it. And oh, yeah. When we understand the symbolism, but also the metaphors, symbolism of painting, but the metaphors in books, when we look at just the way in which we write and the growth, even if we're writing fiction, what is the growth of the protagonist? What is the growth of each of the characters within the story? How has society evolved or declined? And what is it that you are wanting to get out? What is it you want your reader to get out of it? Because the more and more people that write a book just for the title of author, the more the writing and publishing world are seeing authors lose their credibility. So if you're writing a book just for the title of author, you're actually destroying the careers of others. You're belittling it, you're disrespecting it. And the same comes from using the word sorry when you don't mean it, or telling people you love them when you don't love them. We've got to really start paying attention to the words in which we use and how we are doing things just for ego. Philanthropy is not about ego. It really isn't. And if you are doing any philanthropic activity just to fill your own ego, then it's not very philanthropic, is it? So now I've shared all of those, hopefully it's given you some ideas for some journaling and some mind mapping for you to really go out and look into what philanthropy means to you, but which part of it actually resonates with you most. Because like I said, you could be donating books, you can be donating the money, you can be using it to go and do all of these different projects. Like I say, for me, I know that by writing my books, I'm helping people heal, but I'm also helping them to educate themselves. Because what we're seeing is, especially in the mental health field, we're seeing a lot of people suffering from mental health. And it's because people aren't being seen, they're not being heard, they've been neglected, they've been abandoned. And when you need help, you can't always get it immediately. Maybe you live in a remote area, and so the resources to get you, or the logistics or infrastructure to get you the help that you need is not available. But you might also have to be waiting 6 to 8, 12, 18 months to get the help you need. And if you need to get it quicker, you sometimes have to pay a really high price for that. So when we write a book that is educational or in a healing modality, or offering up different things, such as Amanda Denham, who wrote Sin Eater, and my book Layla talks about art therapy. Are you inspiring somebody to try a different way of healing themselves? By reading the books, you're only paying about $9, about £9, or whatever the translation currency conversion is. Maybe you're paying $20. I've just purchased some books this morning about the subject called County Lines here in Britain, by two different authors, so that I can learn about it, because I was not in Britain at the time that this county lines thing was a very big thing, when it was all in the media. So I've got a gap in my knowledge about that, and I can't continue to talk about certain things in society, in British society, until I start learning about it. So I'm buying books and I'm attending these seminars, so that I can actually get to grips with what people in some of the most rural areas of Britain are actually suffering from. How can we help the kids of the future? So again, is your book helping people to understand the society that they're living in? I'm just so passionate about this, because when people can't afford to do education, whether that is, gaining a degree or going to college, or because, and one of the things that really annoys me about the British system of education is that, and I'm about this, is that we know that the British pound is quite strong in, as opposed to a lot of other currencies. But our British universities expect international students to pay 3, 4, sometimes 5 times more for a degree in a British university. And that, when it translates into their economy, into their currency, is a ridiculous amount of money. These students don't take up any more space. They don't take up any more resources. They're often from, their families struggle for years, and they come to our country in respect of our education system, and our education system fails them a lot of the time. And then the British public tend to vilify them and make them feel unwanted, especially because of the British media, newspapers such as the Daily Mail, and the other tabloids. They're quite vitriol against people who are from a different country. And so is your book that you're doing, is it actually tackling something like that? Is it exposing that kind of injustice, and prejudice? And are you helping to write books and actually then send them over to different countries, or actually setting up a school in those countries or universities in those countries, so they're getting the best of the education they need with the textbooks that they need, or the learning materials they need, to actually help advance everybody, not just those in your own country or those that look like you or believe the things that you believe. So again, what is it about philanthropy that you want to see? What is the change that you want to, what is the change that you want to see and make in the world? And what is it about philanthropy that really resonates with you? And how do you want to be a philanthropist? When you know the answers to all of those questions, then you have a much better way of understanding what the power of actually being an author. And we all know, those of you who have seen the previous weeks, that I do believe that literature has the power to heal the world, give people access to education and knowledge about the world, and it gives people hope. So that is I think we're on week 12, didn't I say? Week 12 wrapped up. And I want to thank you for connecting here with me. And you can connect with me through my website. You can find all of the books on there, dawnbates.com. You can actually find, I haven't, bear with me one second. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And so you just go into LinkedIn and do the, look for me, Dawn Bates, FRSA, which is the Fellowship of the Royal Society of Arts. You can connect with me there. You can also make sure that if you want to book a session with me, I'm just getting that up for you here now so I can share the screen. So you can actually book a session with me, 45 minutes, if you've got any questions about how you want to get published, what it's really like to be an author. As you can see, there's a few dates available. Monday the 7th, there are 3 appointments available. On Wednesday, there's only 1. So the days are there. Oh, Thursday, the 10th of April might be a good day for you. So if there's anything that you want to ask me about getting published, or what it's actually really like to be an author, want to look at a strategy, then I'm going to gift you my time for 45 minutes. And see what works for you and how we can harness the value, and the skill sets that you've got to actually get you published in the right way for you. If you choose to, you can actually go over and visit my website, dawnbates.com, where I do offer my 7-week author course. It is a self-study course, and these are the various different modules. So if you go on there, you want to know how to master the art of book writing. It's not just about writing a book, it's actually about mastering it. And it's about, owning your voice. It's about overcoming self-doubt and creating strong writing habits. And so if you just go onto these different drop down box here, you'll be able to see everything. And it's about creating that vision, showing you where the money is that you want to actually get. So identifying the real cost of not writing your book, and discovering the financial opportunities from publishing and speaking. And then we've got module 4 is living and loving your way. It's about life by design. And it's about you finding your biggest inner critic to actually overcome your own inner critic so that you can best deal with the other critics that are out there. So it's a very holistic course. It's a business course. It's a life coaching. They're inside these different modules. You will find journaling questions. You will find activities to do, actions, and you'll find measures that you can track. If you do decide that you want to work with me after you've done the 7-week author course, then the price that you paid for this course will actually come off any other services that you have. So if if you want to do publishing, the money that you've paid for this will actually come off the publishing package, because I do charge for my services, because my expertise is valuable, so is my time. But once you've got skin in the game, then you're actually more likely to show up for yourself and for other people. So we don't have any guests on with us today, but that's okay, because this is going out to all of you. And those of you who are playing catch up on YouTube or watching the replay, thank you so very much for being here. Please do send your questions through the website or email me at hello@dawnbates.com. I probably shouldn't have said that because of all the spammers, but if you want to get in touch with me, there are plenty of ways of doing so. All right, then, well, you take care. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you all the very best.